Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode. I'm so grateful for everyone that has been following and for everyone that has tuned in today. My name is Mamunze, and today we're going to be talking about grief and loss. So we cannot talk about grief without talking about loss. These two concepts, these two words, these two experiences go hand in hand. So I'm just going to define what grief and loss is, the types of loss, the grieving process, and the factors that can affect the grieving process, how to cope with it, and then we call it a day. And I'm sure someone out there would have learned something. So each and every one of us has experienced loss that led them to grieve. So we have loss in different areas of our lives. It could be losing someone, it could be losing a job, it could be losing an opportunity, it could be losing your house, it could be losing anything. But I think today let's just zero in on the loss of a loved one. So each and every one of us has lost someone very close to them at one point or another. Very sad season, and that has led us to grieve, right? So grieving is the emotional response to loss. Like I said, while we lose, we also grieve. So when we lose, we automatically grieve over the loss. So unaddressed grief and loss can lead to prolonged emotional pain and mental health and strained relationships. So that's why it is very important that when you are grieving, you actually address it, because prolonged grief where you actually do not get help can actually then lead you to all these things, strained relationships. It can also interfere with your day-to-day life or with important things, your career, your job, and things like that. So we have types of loss. We have physical loss, like I explained. That's like the death of a loved one, or the loss of a body part, right? We have people that get amputated. That's a loss of a physical loss of a part of your body as well. We have emotional loss, end of a relationship, loss of identity, things like that. We also have psychological loss. That's the loss of a dream, a goal, or an expectation. We also have social loss, where we can lose our social status. You were this person at work, and then that is automatic, that is just stripped off you. Community, and so, like I said, we have all these types of losses, but I want us to talk about the physical loss, the one where we lose people that are very dear to us. And so we have what we call the grieving process. Other people will say the stages of grief. I'm just going to run down that and explain that to you. So we have shock and denial, where the initial numbness and disbelief. When something happens, the shock of hearing that news, they were just involved in an accident, or something tragic happened to them, or they had a short illness. That initial shock is what hits us first, right? And then we get into the anger and the frustration of it. So that's the emotional response to the loss, where what happened? How could it be? What did I do? What did I not do? All of that is that anger and the frustration that comes with the sudden realization of a change in your life. And then we have the bargain and the guilt, attempting to regain control, or to make sense of the situation. And then we also have, after that, we have depression and sadness, where now you're experiencing that emotional pain and hopelessness because of that. They were the breadwinner, they were your sibling, they were your parents. So what am I going to do from here? And then we get to acceptance and the integration of the new reality, right? So the gradual acceptance of the loss and the rebuilding of life. So let me be very quick to say, whilst we say this is stage 1 to 5, the reality of it is you're going to experience all these things, but not necessarily in the actual stage of I went from shock and then anger and then bargain and then depression and then I accepted and I'm good. It doesn't work like that. Today you're feeling like you've accepted. Tomorrow you are bargaining. Tomorrow you are angry. Tomorrow it hits you again and you're in denial. So I want to say this to someone out there. Even if you're feeling today like I've accepted and I get this is the new reality, and tomorrow you are angry, tomorrow you are feeling hopeless, It's okay. All these are part of the experience and the cycle that you go through when you're grieving. So it's not necessarily to say once you felt this, you shouldn't feel it again tomorrow and you should feel bad for it or you're not progressing. If anything, that's actually a healthy way of going through that experience of grief. And it is not necessarily in the specific way of how we would, it would be said to us on paper, in books, in school of learning, but in the actual experience of people. You go through it on any day and allow yourself to respect and to name that stage that you're feeling on that day. So we have factors that influence the grieving process, right? Factors that can do with we could say personal characteristics. This is your age or your personality or your coping mechanisms. So someone who lost someone when they're 15, 20, 45, 50, 60, you'll agree with me that age factor alone means different to that individual. When you're 13, most probably you lose a parent. They were your sponsor. They were your go-to for everything. When you're 45, you lose a parent. You were most probably taking care of them because if life goes the way we expect it, you are taking care of yourself at the time. So those age factors, they affect or influence the grieving process. We also have things like the nature of the loss. Was it sudden? Was it traumatic? Was it anticipated? So if you saw it coming, someone was sick for a very long time, yeah, you were quick to accept. But if it was sudden, someone just got hit by a bus in the morning after you talked to them when they said they're leaving for work, that's different. So we also have that. And then our cultural and spiritual beliefs also affect or influence how we grieve because of what you're going to do, what you do when someone has died. Those are some of the cultural and spiritual beliefs. So how do we cope with grief? Allow yourself to grieve, like I said. Allow yourself to go through the emotions, name them, experience them. Allow yourself to feel, respect those emotions. They demand to be felt, because the moment we are suppressing them, we are telling ourselves we are fine because society expects us to be, and we do not experience them the way we need to. That can be very difficult, and that can prolong us, from the healing process. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to grief. I really need to say this, because how I go through things and how I experience them and process them is totally different from how you would. So I cannot impose that on you and say, by now you should have been feeling this way. And society has a lot to do with how a lot of people have not healed from grief because of our expectations that we put on them. So support and self-care is also very important. Our support system also helps us in how we are going to go through that. Our church system, our families, our communities, they also do a great work in helping us to grieve. So let's surround ourselves with people that support us, with communities that help us to process grief. This is all I could share with you today. It's a broad topic, but in a nutshell, these are some of the things that we all experience that we need to be mindful of. Until we meet again next time, the word is be courageous and be kind. Take care. Bye-bye.